So I had a few interesting things I wanted to talk about. I feel like every time I get on here, I talk about some really dark shit. So I figured we'd start out by just talking about something really chill. I wanted to talk about some Nintendo news because, as many of you know, I'm super into retro games. And Nintendo, of course, is kind of the king of retro games. So I figured we'd take a look at this interesting website. Apparently, Nintendo is facing a class action lawsuit. This website is at digitaltrends.com. It was written by Aaron Mamet just yesterday. So here's what it says. A law firm based in the US has filed a class action lawsuit against Nintendo over the drifting issues that have plagued the Joy-Con controllers of the Nintendo Switch. The law offices of Chimical, Schwartz, Kreiner, and Donaldson Smith, CSK and DS, wow, that's a long name, moved ahead with the lawsuit after gathering information from players who are experiencing the problem. In the lawsuit, which was filed in the U.S. District Court of the Western District of Washington, CKS and DS, which is a law firm, alleges that the joysticks on the Joy-Con controllers are defective. The problem results in drifting, which is when the controller registers movement with the user when the user is not controlling the joysticks. This interferes a great deal with gameplay, especially in games that require precise controls, such as Super Mario Odyssey and Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which are first-party titles. Both of those games were made by Nintendo. They're major franchise titles. The complaint, filed on behalf of purchasers of Switches and Joy-Con controllers, brings claims under various consumer protection statutes as well as various warranty and common law claims. I'm so glad they're doing this. The very first, I bought a Switch for Kylie, 2 years ago for Christmas or something like that. I think maybe it was 2017 Christmas. I don't remember. Anyway, I bought it for her, and I had the red and the blue controllers with it. It's actually a really solid system. I love the Switch. It has a lot of really, really good games on it. I've got Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey. What's the one? It's Splatoon 2. Just a bunch of games, really solid games. But after a really short time, surprisingly short time, like a few months, the Joy-Cons started drifting. I'm playing Breath of the Wild and the camera's turning. I was like, what is going on? I must have gotten defective controllers. So I go out and I buy new black controllers. 2 black controllers, and guess what? They're defective too. They're doing the exact same thing. And it's not just that. They can't seem to stay connected. They keep disconnecting and missing inputs and stuff. I have to be within 2 feet of the Switch to use the Joy-Cons. They are absolutely terrible controllers. I don't know how Nintendo put their name on something so terrible. It's embarrassing. So anyways, continuing on with the article, says the reason behind the Joy-Con drifting issue is still undetermined, though theories include dust accumulating under the joysticks and hardware defects. Nintendo Switch owners who have started experiencing the problem have taken things into their own hands. One commonly suggested solution is to clean the area underneath the joystick with either compressed air, cotton swabs and alcohol, or electrical contact cleaner spray. Another fix for tech-savvy gamers to replace the Joy-Con joystick entirely. Yeah, I actually bought a new joystick because the joystick itself is $5 or something on Amazon. And I tried to replace it myself. And bear in mind, I'm used to working in iPhones where if you mix up the screws, then you will destroy it. Really, really tiny pieces. I'm used to working in old games and stuff too, and soldering. I solder stuff. I mean, I've built lighting systems and stuff. I know what I'm doing with soldering irons and things like that. And the Joy-Con is ridiculously complex inside. It's really, really difficult. The screws are really poorly placed, and they're so tiny that it's really hard to get them back where they're supposed to be. They go under ribbon cables and things. It's just awful. It is an awful architectural design. Remember, this is coming from an iPhone repair person. So anyways, it's really not feasible to replace the joystick on Joy-Cons, even for somebody who's really very technically advanced like me. But I'm glad to see that there's a class action lawsuit. Hopefully we'll see something come of this, because that really gets to me. I just paid what I think the Switch was like $300 when I bought it a couple of years ago, and I can't manage to use the joysticks. Anyway, there's this other Nintendo article about E3. I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard of E3. It's basically, as far as I know, it's Nintendo's worldwide conference. It may be just the worldwide gaming conference, but anyways, Nintendo made some interesting announcements at E3 this year, at 2019 E3. So I wanted to go over a few things that I'm pretty excited about. First, Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel was announced. That's really exciting. That game is absolutely fantastic. Seriously. I love Breath of the Wild. It says the biggest announcement of Nintendo's conference was saved for the very end when the company revealed the first teaser for a sequel to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The brief teaser video gave us scant details about the new game and no clue about when to expect it, but it did drop some intriguing clues about the story. It showed Link and Zelda together, appearing to explore a tomb before something awakens. In the distance, Hyrule Castle starts to shake and rise. It's super exciting. I absolutely cannot wait for this. Another thing that they announced that I'll be interested in, I'm a huge Zelda fan, by the way. Link's Awakening is coming this fall with some surprises. So Link's Awakening was a Game Boy Zelda game. And Game Boy, by definition, basically, is really, really low power. It's got a processor in it that was commonly used in calculators in the 1970s. The hardware in the Game Boy was outdated when the Game Boy came out. It was like 30 years outdated when the Game Boy Color came out. It was just a piece of garbage, really. But Link's Awakening was a really solid Zelda game. Very solid Zelda game. Although it was a lot more confusing than most Zelda games. I will say that. Like, the world map was a maze in itself. You couldn't just go from, like, the north to the south. You had to take all these weird detours and everything. But, you know, it was a solid game, especially for the Game Boy. So they announced Link's Awakening remake is coming this fall. It says, The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening is being remade for Nintendo Switch, and the company announced a fall release date during its presentation. The game looks like a neat modernization of the Game Boy Classic, but one surprise is the new addition of a dungeon editor mode. It will let you collect individual rooms from dungeons and interlock them to make your own dungeon mashups. That's going to be interesting. So I guess it's kind of like Mario Maker a little bit. To mark the game's release, Europe is getting a lavish collector's edition. Complete with the Game Boy-styled steelbook case, the game will also release along with a new amiibo showing Link rendered in the game's claymation-like art style. For more details, check out our pre-order guide. That's pretty exciting. I cannot wait to see that. I think that's coming, they said this year, so it can't be more than a few months out. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they'll try to do like a Christmas release, who knows, but I'll be watching for that. Another thing coming this year, August 30th, is the new Tool album. Don't even get me started on that. That's not Nintendo related, but I'm super excited for it. Let's see. Pokemon Sword and Shield is coming out too. It says the first main Pokemon game for Nintendo Switch, Pokemon Sword and Shield, is dropping this year. Nintendo gave the pair of games their own Nintendo Direct presentation just ahead of E3, revealing the new giant-sized Pokemon mechanic and a bunch of new Mons. New Mons? I've never heard that before. We've also learned how the raid battles will work, which lets you team up with other trainers to take on one kaiju-sized pocket monster. Okay. Sword and Shield will honor the recent legacy of the series by working with the Pokeball Plus accessory released alongside the Let's Go games. That's not the only lesson it's taking from Let's Go, as we've also learned that it won't have random encounters. Ooh, interesting. To the chagrin of some fans, though, Sword and Shield won't allow you to import your entire collection of monsters from previous generations, and this may be the norm going forward into future Pokemon games as well. When I was really little, surprisingly, I was allowed to play the Pokemon games. Being, a Jehovah's Witness at that time, I was very limited in my options. I was limited in what I was allowed to read or consume. For example, I couldn't read Harry Potter. That was one thing that they did not let me do. I really wanted to, too. I saw it in a book order form, and I wanted to get it, and my mom was like, nope. But I was allowed to play Pokemon. And so my mom, one year, she got me a Game Boy, and eventually I talked her into getting me Pokemon Blue. So I played the shit out of that game. Pokemon Blue was awesome. Eventually, I ended up getting a Game Boy Color like years later. The Game Boy Advance was already out by the time I got my Game Boy Color, but it came with Pokemon Crystal. So I got a Game Link cable, and eventually I was able to like trade Pokemon between Crystal and Blue and things like that. So I have a history with the Pokemon games, but I feel like at a certain point, they were way overdoing it with the Pokemon. There's like a trash Pokemon. It's just ridiculous. Like some of the Pokemon that they've designed are just garbage. Literally garbage, some of them. So Pokemon has kind of lost my interest at this point. I do like the remakes, like the remakes of Blue and Red. Like I liked Fire Red and Leaf Green. Absolutely fantastic games. I can get on board with like Heart Gold and Soul Silver because they kind of still follow the same storyline and things. And this is before they had like 16,000 Pokemon out. And also, I liked Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. Those were basically remakes of Blue also. I'm not sure how I feel about the battle system with those two. Like, Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee were a little bit different than other Pokemon games in the sense that when you do random encounters, you're not battling random Pokemon. You're trying to catch random Pokemon. Even if you already have it, doesn't matter. Every time you catch a Pokemon, your experience goes up. So you're not fighting them, you're catching them. And it's a different strategy from previous Pokemon games. And I don't really know how I feel about it. I mean, it works, but I really liked the battling system a lot. So, anyway, I did end up beating Let's Go Pikachu, I think. I had like 8 badges or something. I was really far into that game when I stopped playing it. But anyway, it's an alright game. I'll just stick to Fire Red and Leaf Green, honestly. Those are the main announcements that I wanted to cover with E3 and with Nintendo, things like that. There was one more thing, though. Apparently, the Nintendo Switch may soon add retro games from from other classic systems. This is from that same guy, Aaron Mamet, on digitaltrends.com. According to him, Nintendo is adding basically a virtual console tantamount to the Wii virtual console, where they're giving you the ability to play retro games on the Switch, which is really, really cool. It says the online subscription service for the Nintendo Switch may soon add more titles to its collection of retro games. The service currently offers access to a library of classic NES games, among other benefits such as online multiplayer and cloud saves. More NES titles are being regularly added to the collection, with the games getting new features such as save states and online play. Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, however, have longed for the inclusion of games from other classic platforms, such as the Super Nintendo, N64, and GameCube. While there's no timetable, it appears that Nintendo is at least considering the expansion of the service's retro collection. Here's my issue with this, okay? I don't believe in piracy. I will say that up front right now. I don't believe in piracy. I have to say that as a public figure, if not just a regular individual. But Nintendo is making it really, really difficult to say that. They make it more and more difficult every day. Because these games, these retro games, there's no way to replay them. I mean, are you going to go out and buy every console from the 90s? I have a lot of them, and it's pricey. I can't afford to buy every game that I wanted to play, every console I wanted to play. It's not easy, and it's not cheap. You know what they should have done for the NES Classic and for like the SNES Classic? Those little systems that they had, like, came with like 2 controllers or whatever, and they had like 50 games. They should have put all the games on. Why didn't they put all of the games on them? Why were we stuck with like 50 of them? Sure, they were the 50 best, quote unquote. But look at the PlayStation Classic or the PlayStation Mini or whatever it was. It had a terrible library of games. It had like nothing good. It had Final Fantasy VII and a few others that were really solid games. But they had like snowboarding games and stuff. Why would anybody want those? And I played Mega Man Legends on there. They didn't have Mega Man Legends on that, I don't think. They didn't have Mega Man Legends 2 at the very least. I want all the games. Why can't they fit all of them on? There are a total of, I think, 1,200 NES games, around 1,200 SNES games, and I think somewhere in the same vicinity for PlayStation 1 games. They're not that big. They're not that robust. I think they take up like 2 gigs for like all of the NES games. That's not that big. totally could have done it. If Nintendo isn't providing a service that enables us to do this legally, then people are going to do it illegally, which again, I don't endorse, but it's going to happen. Nintendo's been going around to a bunch of people lately, a bunch of websites, ROM websites and stuff, and suing them and hitting them with DMCA notices and all this other stuff, trying to bring down the ROM websites. I would have a lot less of a problem with them doing that if they gave us some way to play the games. If they gave us a way to play them that didn't require us to buy them, again, from generation to generation. Like the Wii Virtual Console games, you could buy them and play some of them. But now the Switch Virtual Console is completely different. I don't even know if it's a virtual console. It's a completely different system. You have to buy that stuff again. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. And Nintendo's totally dropping the ball on retro games.